like a daily anxiety where I have to think about the fact that if I don't stick to my schedule, I'm going to fall behind. I have to catch up. I have to do this. Hi, I'm Josh. Welcome to my channel. In this video, I'm going to be doing my April TBR. So I'm trying something slightly new this month in the sense that I'm trying to approach my TBR more conservatively. I keep planning 20 or so books every month because I know that's how many I can read if I push myself. And what it's become is like a daily anxiety. When in reality, yes, I might end up reading 20 books in a month if I don't have other things going on. But even when I don't, it's knowing that I have to is really stressful. At the same time, I really benefit from having a TBR. It helps me focus, helps me think about which books I want to read next. And a monthly TBR is still short enough that I can sort of not have to think really long term. So I have this new goal of mine where I'm only going to plan to read 15 books in a month. That'll leave room for potential readathon if one pops up. The goal is to allow myself some freedom so that if I find I have extra time, okay, I can read another book. Maybe one I would have put on here anyways. Maybe it's not. It doesn't matter. It's about not putting myself in an impossible situation where I have to push myself to the limit every single time, because it does get exhausting. Which, don't get me wrong, it's not that I don't want to read, but it's sort of one of these things where like I want to do 1,000 things in my life. So let's just get started. I'm going to start with my arcs that I have to read. So you're going to find out when I release my books read in March. I did not read all of the arcs I wanted to. Luckily, they're not all published in March. The first one's going to be Conjure Women by Afia Atakora. This is a book that I believe is about an African-American family set during the Civil War era with some type of magical connection. That's all I really know. It's coming out, I think, April 7th. I'm going to put it down here for each one. And the next one's going to be Still, a Memoir by Emma Hansen. This one's coming out April 4th, so this is one I'll be reading hopefully in the next few days. It's about a woman who had to go through a stillbirth and about her experience. I talked about this in my March TBR, so I won't go too far into it. It's a priority, especially with only 15 books. I should be able to get to these arcs. And then the next one's going to be The Apartment by K.A. Slater, my bad. I'm confusing her with Karen Slaughter. I don't know what this book's about. I just know it's a thriller, and I saw a thriller, so I requested it. I'm hoping it's good. Thrillers aren't my forte in the sense that I haven't read enough of them to really get a good sense of them, unless you count all my horrors as thrillers, and that's a different type of thriller. The next one I'm going to be reading is going to be a reread of Station 11 by Emily St. John Mandel. I'm reading this for a new book club that I'm doing with friends from my department here at my university. I'm hoping that goes well. I'm setting it up. It makes me a little anxious, so we'll see. I'm hoping I enjoy it more this time around. I gave it a 4 out of 5 stars, I think, last time. It wasn't everything I wanted it to be, which I think was partly just I was expecting it to be The Road, or like that level of travesty, and it was much more hopeful in its storyline. So I'm hoping to enjoy it more. I also just read her newest book, The Glass Hotel, and I didn't love the plot, but I did enjoy her writing, so I'm hoping I'll be able to appreciate her writing more this go around too. The next two are horror books. I did not know which horror to pick, but I try to pick at least one book from each genre, and I want to read more horror, so I picked 2. And so I basically use a quantum number generator to choose from all the horror books that I have. If you're interested in why I would do that, I'm going to put a link down below related to quantum number generators, why I think it's cool. The first one's going to be a book I just book called Carter and Lovecraft by Jonathan L. Howard. This is, I think, a detective book. I'm not sure. I just know it's Lovecraftian. Probably wouldn't have chosen this one first if I was just randomly picking, but that's the point of the RNG or the QNG, is to get me to choose a book absolutely randomly. The next one is actually also Lovecraft, and that's going to be Welcome to Night Vale. I've listened to maybe 40 or 50 of this podcast. It's really good, and so I'm hoping the book is also really good. I mean, it's really weird and hilarious, so I don't see myself not loving this. And this one is by Joseph Fink and Jeffrey Cranor. And I guess I should elaborate. This is based off of a podcast. It was made because of the podcast, which is just a serialized sort of weird Lovecraftian comedy podcast where they have like made up skits or episodes. And it's really good. I highly recommend it. It's kind of old now though. The next 3 books are books that I chose because I am specifically trying to get more of these authors or this series. The first one's going to be Jo Walton's My Real Children. I got approved for her June or July arc of or What Will, I think. I've only read one of her books, and that would be Among Us, or Among Others, rather. I read that twice since it's come out, and that won a Hugo Award, and I really enjoyed that one. It was really weird, magical realism. I really liked her fantasy, and I wanted to read more of it before I got into her newest book, and so I chose this one. It's basically a multiverse story, or a potential multiverse story, where we have this woman who is living a life where she has her children, and then she has a life where she doesn't have her children. So basically she's stuck in this life where, as far as she knows, she doesn't have children, like what all of reality says, but she has the memories of her children. So it seems to be this woman split between these two universes, one where she had children, one where she didn't. And so I think it's a really cool idea. I really hope I like it. I'm really looking forward to this one. Next one is A.S. King, and I picked this one because the favorite of Books on Law. I'm just trying to read all of them, so one a month, and that's going to be Everybody Sees the Ants by A.S. King. Magical realism, weird writing style, and I love her. I love it. I'm in the middle. I crawled through it, and it is amazing. I feel like her books probably have amazing rereadability just because they're so weird that there's so much I'm probably missing and not even realizing it. The next one is book 2 of the Scythe trilogy, Thunderhead by Neil Schusterman. And you have no idea how hard it has been not to read this before now. I didn't pick it last month because it was Women's History Month and I was trying to avoid male authors. And I didn't read it in February because it was Black History Month. And I didn't read it in January because I didn't want to fuck up my TBR that I already had said. This is a world in the future, if you don't know, where all death has been cured. Yay, they don't have to worry about coronavirus. What they do have to worry about is the fact that there's overpopulation, so the government hires these people called spies who get to decide who lives, who dies, and who tells the story. Neil Schusterman. Okay, the next 3 books I'm reading are books that I chose for a video, where I'm basically reading some of Ariel Bissett's favorite books. The first one I don't think is necessarily an all-time favorite, or like the absolute top, obviously, but when I look back at some of her top videos, this was one that showed up, which was Turtles All the Way Down by John Green. I know this is very popular. It's not just one that she loves. It's a lot of people loves. Don't really know what it's about. I know it's YA and mental health. Now these next 2 are much more obviously her favorites. And that's going to be Animal Farm by George Orwell. This is a collection of that in 1984. I've already read 1984. Haven't read Animal Farm. Don't really know much about Animal Farm. I think it has to do with capitalism and animals. That's all. I loved 1984, and I'm excited to read this one. The next one was a book that I think she called her favorite a couple years ago. She talked a lot about this one, and that was An Absolutely Remarkable Thing by Hank Green. I think I'm going to like this one. Okay, the next 3 are books that I am choosing. One, because I want to read more books that I've owned for a very long time, and books that satisfy certain genres. So the first 2 here are going to be nonfiction, because I want to get nonfiction into my TBR. I'm actually getting 2. The first one's going to be The Conquest of Happiness by Bertrand Russell. I have bought several of his books. I want to read more. He was a philosopher, I think skeptic, a very big rational type person about critical thinking, and did a lot of commentary on religion. And I chose this one because I remember when I saw it, I started reading it to my mom when I first got it back in January or December, and I was really intrigued when I started out. It seems like sort of a self-help book, which isn't usually something I'm into, but I'm intrigued and I'm curious what he has to say, because this quest for happiness obviously is something that applies to all of us, and I'm just curious how he contemplates this idea of happiness. What is happiness and how do we strive for it? The next one is a book I've owned since 2015, and that is Sandra Day O'Connor's The Majesty of Law. Now, you might be asking, why would I buy this? Good question. Several years ago, 2015 I guess, more than several years ago, I bought several Supreme Court Justice memoirs and books. For whatever reason, I just got excited and I was like, oh, I want to read this. And while I'm not in a position where I'm saying I don't want to read it, I'm definitely at a point where I'm like, I probably wouldn't buy this today based off all the other books I want to read. But the fact is, I did buy it. And I'm not just going to trash every book that I buy once I decided it's not my absolute favorite anymore, my absolute most anticipated. It's one of those books where I'm choosing to read because it's one of my oldest, and I need to read more of my old TBR. So 5 years old satisfies that. I think the title is self-explanatory. If you don't know, Sandra Day O'Connor was the first female justice. I'm sure it'll be fine. The next one is a book that I would consider kind of old. I've owned it for a few years now, I think 2017. It's a book that I've also been intimidated by in the past, just because I believe it's classified as literary fiction. It's by Barbara Kingsolver, and it's called The Poisonwood Bible. I first added this to my TBR several years ago when I was looking up books that had to do with religion, or rather non-religion, or atheism. And this was basically, what from my understanding, a critique on religion. I believe it's a story of a missionary family that goes somewhere. I could be entirely wrong about that. I haven't really looked into it since I first added it to my TBR, but I decided to finally get to it. It's one of those books where I get into, I guess I'm intimidated. That's really why I haven't read it, but I'm really hoping I like it because it's the content seems really intriguing to me. This idea of basically just criticizing or analyzing religion in a critical way, which I'm all for. The last thing I want to mention here is going to be Middlesex, which I realize I don't have the book on me, so I'll just throw in the cover here, by Eugene something, I think. And I started that for the Queer Lit Readathon. Unfortunately, I didn't finish it. I don't expect to finish it this month because it's right now, it's the 30th, or 29th rather, of March, and I still have to finish 2 other books. Point is that I'm going to probably have to carry that over. That technically makes my TBR for March 16 books, but you know what? Since I started it this month, I'm not going to count it. 15 and a half books, we'll call it that. I'm going to round it down to 15, just like you would if you had a rating that was and a half. So that is my TBR for March. Oh, damn it, I am still in March. That is my TBR for April. And I hope you enjoyed the video. Let me know if you read any of these books, if you're interested in any of the books since I've mentioned them. Yeah, just let me know what you're reading as well in the comments. I hope you have a great day, and I hope you also stay safe and also stay home. Wash your hands. Bye.